What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. I am your host, Numac, and joining me to talk about this week's matchup against the conference-leading Philadelphia Eagles is Jordan Dresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Hello. Packers talk resumes.
It was nice having that little 4-day break, 3-day break over the weekend and not having my Sunday possibly ruined due to a Packers trouncing, which it might be this week, as we
Yeah.
sort of talked
Save the
about.
save the best game for last on Sunday.
Right,
But
but it's certainly going to be the best game, not a blowout at all. But before we get into that matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, we need to hand out some cheeses, as it's been about just almost a week since the Tennessee Titans basically just manhandled the Packers at Lambeau on a snowy Thursday night, 27-17. There were some highlights, however. Some cheeses to be handed out, a bunch of slices of Munster to wrap it up. First and foremost is Randall Cobb getting his, I think it's second cheese of the year. 6 receptions on 6 targets for 73 yards. The veteran, just proving to be the veteran that they've needed in the receiving team basically all year when he's been healthy. Unlike sort of Sammy Watkins and Al Lazard and those two. Next is Christian Watson once again, proving to be a good receiver when the Packers decide to utilize him down the field. 4 receptions on 6 targets, 48 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. One on a either an offside or a 12-man on the field, I believe it was. I think it might have been offside, but and then another one. I honestly forget what that second touchdown was, but he had to.
I
Um,
remember liking the play call
yeah, me too.
or the play design. It was it was one of the best for that night. And not a lot.
Yeah, great. One of the highlights of that game. Moving to the other side of the ball, two cheeses to give out on defense. First one we'll give to Chris Barnes, playing really well since he returned from injury and his concussion. 12 tackles, 6 of those by himself, and 1 sack. And the other cheese goes to Preston Smith, who had 1.5 sacks and 5 tackles. Preston really just being a solid piece of this pass rush since Rashawn Gary went down, and really being, I guess, sort of the beacon of hope on defense with the secondary not playing as well as it should.
Yeah. He had a great game despite things not going exactly as planned.
Yep, exactly. So, your cheesebird rounding out after 11 games, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 11 games. Aaron Jones still leading the way with 8. Preston Smith moves up into the 4 tier with his line mate, I guess. Rashawn Gary, who is obviously out for the rest of the year. Christian Watson with 3 now. Devondre Campbell, Jair, Romeo Dobbs, Rudy Ford all also have 3. Aaron Rodgers, AJ Dillon, Elton Jenkins, Dave Bakhtiari, John Runyon, Kenny Clark, Keyshawn Nixon, Pat O'Donnell, Randall Cobb, Russell Douglas, and Quay Walker with 2. And then Al Lazard, Eric Stokes, Darnell Savage, Jerron Reed, Chris Barnes, Mason Crosby, Robert Tunyon, Sammy Watkins, and Zach Tom with 1. Obviously, with Chris Barnes earning his first of the year. So that wraps up Jesus. A nice little monster to go with their leftover sandwiches they're having prior to all the leftovers they're gonna have for Thanksgiving. So, should we start talking about the Philadelphia Eagles?
Regrettably, yes. Regrettably, yes.
uh, Philadelphia Eagles, really good, really good. That's pretty much simple enough to say at this point with how they've been playing. If I'm not mistaken, I think they're 9-1 now,
They are.
and coming off of a tight win against the Indianapolis Colts in Indy, and having coming off of that game a loss to the Commanders. So they are a team, as we had talked about, you and I, Jordan, pre-pod, kind of on the mend a little bit. Not on the mend. They're showing that they're a human team and not just this force to be reckoned with, like they kind of showed through the first 8 games of the season.
Yeah, I mean, they've pretty much been the best team from the get-go, at least in my opinion.
Yeah,
Kind of hitting this mid-season swoon, I guess. I mean, obviously losing their undefeated bid, which is hard to do,
right.
but doing it against a division rival, an improved team in Washington, then a Colts team that, what, 2.5 weeks ago fired their coach for an interim head coach that was on their coaching staff. But I mean, considering the results the last couple of weeks
Yeah,
kind of came in at the right time because it seems like there was a lot going on.
apparently.
Apparently. But still, this is a team, even with a big injury to Dallas Goedert, they made a big move at the trade deadline to kind of fortify their already great defense. Um, yeah, I just think this is by far and away the best team in the NFC.
Right.
And way back in August, September, when we had so much optimism, this is one of the games I was like, look, yeah, I'm like, this could be a really tough one. It's still going to be very tough. It just feels a lot more insurmountable
Yeah,
considering how things have unfolded. But
right. Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
the way both team seasons have went, it has seemingly obviously went a lot better for the Eagles and how others sort of thought their season would go. Like they were the darling pick for the NFC coming into the season. I didn't buy into it. I was wrong. Packers were hoping to continue their trend of success and obviously haven't. So it's one team is living up to expectations, one has not. um,
exactly.
but before we deep dive into um, sort of offense defense, want to touch on the injuries, like you had mentioned. Dallas Goedert not with them at the moment. I forget what injury he had. I think it might have been his elbow, if I'm not mistaken. But
It sounds, I remember it being painful,
yeah, um,
I guess,
yeah,
as all
he
injuries are.
was right, exactly. um, he was one of their like main receiving targets, along with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. So losing him um, as a threat down the field definitely has limited their offense. A shoulder injury with him is keeping him out, although they say that he won't be out the rest of the calendar, like the season. They're expecting him to be back in the regular season, which is, I guess, good for them. On the Packers side, a report came out, I think on Tuesday. We're recording this on Tuesday, either Monday or Tuesday, that Romeo Doubs is not expected to be available for the Packers for this Sunday's game, which makes some sense. I believe this is like the fourth week or no, it'll be the third week. He's out the Lions week.
Lions,
Lions, Cowboys,
Cowboys.
Titans, Eagles.
Oh
This would
my.
be the third full game he's missed, but he went out the very beginning of the Detroit game. So
Yes.
either which
So
way,
very on the very early side of his timeline.
yep. So I would expect him to be back for the game against the Bears if I, I guess, being hopeful. But
Yeah.
I think 4 to 6 weeks for an ankle sprain. We might be looking at 6 the way the season's going, as to not rush him back for anything, especially if they lose this week. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no actual injury report yet as we're recording on Tuesday before the holiday, and so I think that is like the big theme though for the Packers is Romeo Doubs, given the secondary that they'll be facing. A little news out of 1265 uh, Lombardi Avenue as well. They worked out 2 former Packers in the receiving core, Geronimo Allison and Danny Davis. Don't really know why they did that. Like, I don't really see the vision as they already have 4 wide receivers on their practice squad. Like, and
That is a
they
good point.
and they signed D.D. Westbrook when Amari left.
Was there an open roster spot still?
I don't know. They don't have anybody on IR, I don't think, so I don't know if there is.
Because if I remember correctly, they elevated Ladarius Hamilton,
Yeah,
but I don't know if they filled that last roster spot after cutting Rogers and Kylan Hill.
right,
But this is also a week ago, so it very well could have been figured out in the meantime.
right. So
But to your point, who they work out and what position that they're working out always tells and determines how the injury report is going to be.
right,
So
exactly.
Cobb came back. Are they going to maybe lighten his load, or like is he still 100%? He came early, or came back on an early week, I should say. Um, I don't. No one else got hurt too, right?
No,
Not
not
Toure.
that I know of, or that we know of yet.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, but they also worked out um, four linemen, including tackle Sage Dockstader, tackle Derek Kurtzetter, tackle Sam Shoeletter, and center Chris Owens. Shout out, shout out Chris Owens for having a simple name. Like I'm not here to name shame, but like Dockstader, Kurtzetter, and Shoeletter all really got me there.
So a Doc's Tater, shoe letter, and a haymaker walking to a bar.
Yeah.
And Chris Owens is your fourth lineman. That's worked out. That's
Yeah.
fine.
So, uh, that one like makes not too much more sense, but like unless they got bad news on EJ or Bakhtiari through the week or something, I don't know. But it could just be the Packers doing their due diligence as well on working some people out. Obviously, you want to keep working out players throughout the season to make sure you're putting the best 53 man roster you can on the field, but I don't know where any of those pieces sort of slot into that mindset right now.
Yeah, it's gonna
Because
be interesting.
yeah, so they haven't signed anybody that we know of. Um, that worked out in that.
Westbrook is still a practice squad guy.
Yep, yep.
They just don't like what they see. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Or maybe they think that um, Keyshawn Nixon and Randall Cobb did a good enough job there to warrant him being elevated. Or maybe they signed him in hopes to keep him for next year and just have his time within the system to learn it and then be an asset in the return game next year and the passing game for that matter.
Quite possibly.
So just an idea, but who are we to say? Um, that's really it for newswise. I guess we can get right into the the deep dive on offense, defense, stuff like that. Do you want to start with the offense or defense? Because both of them for the Eagles are very good, as opposed to being somewhat mediocre for the Packers this year.
Yeah, let's do defense because it scares the living hell out of me.
Our defense. Start with Packers defense.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, gonna need a big week out of Jair and Razul. Like
Mhm.
Jalen Hurts, MVP candidate this year, having a what is by all means a breakout year, um, with Philly, and got a new shiny toy this offseason in AJ Brown for him to throw to after they figuratively punted wide receiver punt returner Jalen Rager to Minnesota because that pick didn't work
That's
out.
right. I
Yeah.
forgot. And yeah, he's
Yep.
done nothing.
So he hasn't done much at all. So yeah, the passing attack for the Eagles before Dallas Goedert got hurt was incredible because you had Devonta Smith on one side, AJ Brown on the other, and then Dallas Goedert up the middle as from the tight end position. So like pretty good options for a blossoming young quarterback to be throwing to, and it's definitely showcased this year as I think it was the not the Commanders game, or it might have been the Commanders game, maybe the one before that, if I'm thinking correctly, that AJ Brown absolutely like went off for like
Oh yes.
three touchdowns, and
Oh yeah. What game was it against?
that was against Pittsburgh. He went for
Pittsburgh. Yeah.
6 receptions, 156 yards, and three touchdowns against the Steelers. So, um, But yeah, he's only had two uh, games over 100 yards this season. But when he does, he goes for 150. So like, if he's gonna explode, he's probably gonna explode.
Hmm.
But just another option for him is, or for Jalen Hurts, is going to be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, not having Goddard kind of limits their passing weapons a little bit, so you can kind of maybe focus on covering Smith and Brown.
Right.
Um, Maybe that's part of why they had to fight so much to win in Indianapolis because it takes a lot to adjust to not having such a significant passing weapon in there, especially off. I mean, tight end is always just kind of like if you lose tight end, it's like I don't know. They're so mismatch dependent because
Right.
you're taking either a nickel cornerback or a linebacker out, and
Right.
then it's kind of yeah, you're just focusing more on no strategist by any means. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is AJ Brown was exactly the move that the Eagles had to make to really elevate their quarterback. Between them and the Dolphins, and even it's probably another one I'm missing. Um, Making these moves to go the Raiders.
Yep.
Um,
Obviously.
the to have a rookie or a quarterback on their rookie scale contract and all this stuff that you're betting your hopes on to develop and elevate them and just kind of I don't know determine are the faults that he's showing a result of limited passing weapons
Hmm.
or is it something in his own game? And the answer unequivocally for Philadelphia is that they just didn't have weapons. And
Yeah.
I know they got Devontae Smith, who was, I think, he was their top overall pick last year. But
Yeah. Top 10. I think he was six.
yeah, it was like six. Yeah, that's not enough to really just like be a game changer. But it's not enough to just have one of these guys anymore. The Dolphins are another proof of that. Like you can get Jalen Waddle,
Yep.
but if you go after an All Pro wide receiver, perennial All Pro wide receiver like Tyreek Hill or AJ Brown's kind of is not on that same level, but
Same
certainly,
same realm of receiver.
yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, you do it a million times over.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just think it'll be interesting to see how the pass game looks without Goddard,
Hmm.
but they still like Miles Sanders is still an effective guy that they're gonna play
Right.
off of. Even some of their like little scat backs in the backfield too. Boston Scott has always kind of just hung around and been a problem. I
Right.
guess it's just stuff like that that I think can really be um trouble, obviously, for Green Bay's defense because it's
Hmm.
just like, how do you possibly, in the current state of it of their defense, how do you possibly make life difficult on Hurts when you know that he can easily just scoot on by
Right.
if you're not manning him, or are you try to take any big plays away from them, which they are certainly capable of doing.
Right. Exactly. And I think like the 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 game is going to be they have to stop one of either the rush or the pass. They
Yep.
can't. We know they can't do both. We talked about that at length uh, last pod against the Titans post game.
Yeah.
But having a big game from Jair Razul is going to be important in limiting that game because for as good as their passing game has been all season, and again, you can't really do like so much in limiting Devonta Smith and AJ Brown because they're just that good of receivers. But once you get away, like past those two, without Dallas Goddard, they don't have too many options. Like their third and fourth receivers are Zach Pascal, the former Indianapolis Colt,
Mm-hmm.
and Quez Watkins, who are both having like fine years as wide receiver threes and fours. Um, Zach Pascal has 11 receptions on 13 targets for 120 yards on touchdown. Quez Watkins has 14 catches on 17 targets, 200 yards and two touchdowns. So like they're getting mixed in, but if the Packers can force those two to beat them, as opposed to getting beat by AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, I think it'll be a lot easier for that like road to a win to be
Mhm.
found and traveled on. But they need to really focus on stopping at least one aspect of the Eagles' offensive attack because if they don't, they're going to get absolutely obliterated. But that's just because they have so many weapons in their offensive scheme that it'll just be a cakewalk for them if the Packers can't at least take one away. Like it'd be frustrating to see them like again lose because they can't stop both facets of an offensive attack like they could in Tennessee. But it'd be less frustrating because Jalen Hurts is better than Ryan Tannehill is. Like if we stop Jalen Hurts and the offensive passing, like the throwing, then I'm okay if Miles Sanders has like a better day than he usually does because Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, and their running game isn't like all pro like Derrick Henry is or Dalvin Cook or any of the numerous rushing attacks we've seen this season. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to say the least.
absolutely.
Not to
And I
mention,
just think,
sorry, not to mention
no,
before I
you go.
not to mention Jalen Hurts in the rushing game.
Yes. Yeah, that is always, it doesn't matter who is the head coach, defensive coordinator, or whatever. The idea of a dual threat quarterback is just like has always been a problem. It's been a problem since that Michael Vick playoff game where they just ruined, just torn asunder the Lambeau mystique for home playoff games. It was
2002?
20 years ago at least.
2002, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, like rushing quarterbacks are for sure the I guess bane of Packers defense existence.
Hmm.
It is 2002. Um, but like Michael Vick, the biggest recent example is Colin Kaepernick,
Yes.
and
Oh
then
my gosh. Yes. Yeah.
and to partial the point of Russell Wilson, like he wasn't hurting you and gashing you as bad as like Vick and Colin Kaepernick did for all those yards, but he still had that pocket mobility to really burn you when the
Yeah.
scramble drill was going on. He was like, no one's open, I'll just run for 20 yards. So Jalen Hurts has
Hmm.
the absolute ability to do that because he is a good football player and
And I think
has,
too.
I think, I'm trying to see if I can find it quick how many rushing yards Jalen Hurts has. 440. So that's pretty good for a quarterback.
Yes. Also, I think 8 touchdowns leading the team.
Yep, and rushing touchdowns.
So that's the other thing too. Like we think of their offense like big explosive plays. They got the speedy wideouts to kind of just take over a drive or take over a game.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth highest red zone percentage with 71.4%.
Man.
Like it's stuff like that where like that is the sign of a good team, or like in the Titans case where they could just run or ride Derrick Henry into the ground because he's just this bowling ball of a guy that can get through and short yardage stuff. But like in the Eagles case, like there because there is such a plethora of everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like, oh, Jalen Hurts can kind of wander around and freelance a little bit, then score a 5 yard rushing touchdown. So it's stuff like that where it's like you think of the of long drives, the stuff that we talked about with the Packers and how ideally their offense would be this year if everything is going correctly. Um, the Eagles can do damages so many different ways where they can kind of win the grinded out games. They can win shootout games. That's the stuff that like for me, I can see that carrying them so many different ways because it just makes them equipped to play in so many different settings, environments, or
Mm-hmm.
obviously long into January and maybe even February.
Right. Absolutely. Just because, like you said, like having that dual threat dynamic quarterback gives you so many options. It really opens up your offensive playbook. which
Hmm.
uh, Nick Sirianni has done a great job with since he's taken over there.
Yeah.
Big week going to be needed from I think it's gonna be Quay Walker. Quay Walker or Chris Barnes sort of playing that QB spy um role for the defense. And like if it's Chris Barnes, I could see that working out as well. I think there might be a value in seeing how Quay Walker holds up that way though, just because he is so fast and gets to the ball so quickly that maybe him putting him as a spy to watch Jalen Hurts as he maneuvers throughout the pocket and tries to break out might be a good development thing for him.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good shout. I think that's kind of an interesting way of looking at it. And as you said, just to see reps of that because they don't have never really.
They don't really get
Devontae
that.
Campbell's only been like the nearest in the last good while of like guys that can possibly take that out of the equation for an opposing team.
Right. Yeah, I think that it's time to start looking at the season as like progressing players and seeing how they can um, sort of add value to the team going forward. And I think this would be a great chance for um, Quay Walker just to be that person this game.
Yes.
Leads the team in tackles this year at 82. Next closest is Devondre Campbell at 64, despite missing 3 games now. Adrian Amos third most at 62. So like Quay's in there a lot this season, which is exciting as a rookie linebacker. So yeah, I think it might be definitely worth getting him as just that spy and seeing how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, Trying to think of any other like impact players that will need to come out this week. I think it's definitely just on Jair and Razul. Like if they get torched this week, it's not going to be good. Like we already know it hasn't been good, but but like that'd be 2 games in a row that they both haven't really played well. Like given Titans game was a short week, I'm not really make excuses for that because Thursday games aren't new. Like Jair has played in plenty of Thursday games, so has Razul. I don't think that's a necessarily appropriate excuse to give them. But at the same time, like if they get torched by Traylon Burks and Robert Woods, I'm kind of scared to see what AJ Brown and Devontae Smith do to them.
Yeah, it's just more of for me, it's like, are you with it mentally?
Right.
Because everything has slipped from your grasp. There's been a lot of talk of, I mean, we talked about the last pod, the whole captaincy issue with Jair and just
Mm-hmm.
kind of you're a leader on that defense, especially with who's all out now.
Right.
Um, can you stick to that when it's you're what 4-7 and you're not going anywhere?
Yeah.
You just signed a big extension. It's stuff like that that just kind of like lingers on. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bad season. Maybe that changes next year, but it's the stuff that can generate. Good lord, um, hard feelings and stuff like that. That just kind of you hope is contained to this awful year.
Yeah. Like it's instances like this that lead to Jair not getting a captaincy. Like if he's not showing effort and really putting in the time to be good to his best of like to the best of his ability now, like when the games are hard and getting motivated is tough, then what will that say from his teammates next season if they go on a smaller stretch of losing? Like if they have like a 2 game streak, like oh boy, like are we gonna be bad again this year or what? Like that stuff, just stuff like that. Like I think
Yeah.
this is more as we touched on in Thursdays um post game pod that this is a new sort of part of the season and a lot earlier in the season than we're used to, that it's time to start looking to next year. So we'll see.
We shall see.
Shall we switch to the offense?
Let's do.
Um, I think it needs to be another Aaron Jones week. Like we say this every week, but I'm scared of the Philadelphia pass defense. It's pretty much that simple. They're really good. Uh like uh they have a lot of turnovers in that secondary. CJ Gardner Johnson, who they got from the Saints for an absolute song over the summer, has 6 interceptions in I think what 11 games that they played,
Yep.
or no 10 games for the
Oh
Eagles.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're 9-1. So 6 interceptions in 10 games, pretty good. And then they have 3 more from Darius Slay, former Detroit Lion, and James Bradbury, who signed a 1-year deal with them over the summer. So it's just like, buddy, like is this version of Aaron Rodgers going to be able to not escape this game with 2, 3 interceptions? Because the way we've been seeing him place the ball, I am not so sure that he might get out of this game unscathed. It's either unscathed or I'm sorry, there's 3 options here. Unscathed, which would be a shocker, a bunch of interceptions, or unscathed because he can't throw the ball confidently to his receivers, and he's like putting all of them in the ground because he's trying to place them so perfectly and just is throwing bad balls.
Yeah, I mean, you said it with Gardner Johnson. Eagles have the highest turnover percentage for a defense, 20.4. So basically, 1 in every 5 drives that their opponent has ends in the Eagles' turnover, which is the best number in the league.
That's crazy.
So yeah, mentioned their secondary. Probably the best secondary in football this year. I cannot tell you another one that comes close that hasn't had injuries, because I probably would have thrown in the Bills in there because they have all pro options with like Tre'Davious White or even Micah Hyde. That was a big one that they lost.
Yep.
Um, we haven't even talked about the passing or their pass rushers.
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to your point, like this is, you know, if you're going to trust receivers and you want to be productive in the passing game, Aaron Rodgers is going to have to do things that he's not normally prone to do.
Yep.
Um, yeah, that's that. Yeah, it's for. I mean, I'm kind of excited in one way because I think this is a great test. Keep slipping over my words. Great test for Christian Watson
Yeah,
going against tougher cornerbacks, probably the toughest you'll see all season.
I think so.
I think this is as you said before, this is a good, because where we are in the season, this is basically just like little data points. And yeah, you may not win a game at this point. It doesn't really matter if you win or not.
Right.
How does Christian Watson do against a secondary like that? Are they going to move him around the field, try to get him on better matchups, or how does he work from the like? It's still stuff like that that I'm very eager to see.
Hmm.
And there's not a lot of things I'm eager to see with the Packers at this point because, as you know, we've we've established how the last few weeks have gone.
Right.
But this is the big test for Christian Watson to a lesser extent, but still, someone that could feature in the Packers' plans
Hmm.
moving forward. Samari Toure, stuff like that. That I would like to see, and hopefully it ends in another productive day. I mean, Christian Watson's been
He's trending.
incredibly productive.
He's
Yeah, he's
trending up.
trending upwards.
I saw a Bleacher Report push notification today that Christian Watson could be coming for the Rookie of the Year. I went, that'd be an incredible final 9 games after doing a whole lot of nothing the first 8 to then go to Rookie of the Year territory. Like, I think it's either Kenneth Walker, Brees Hall, Damian Pierce, like any of those guys,
Yeah.
or pick one of Chris Olave, and in the great.
Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, like you can't go wrong a lot of ways here. But
No,
like even Romeo Dobbs could have had an argument to begin the season or to
that
begin
is
the
true.
first couple games. But regardless, yeah, like seeing how Chris Watson can fare against these better corners would be great for again his development, which is a sad thing to talk about in week 12. But alas, that's where we're at.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think like not to toot my own horn like little toot toot, but both of us had players to watch last week that did pretty well. Like yours were, mine was Christian Watson, and then yours was Derrick Henry and Randall Cobb. So like
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
all three of our players had a significant impact on the game and how the game went. Like Christian Watson, 2 touchdowns and good amount of yards. Randall Cobb led the team in receiving, and Derrick Henry wasn't the factor that we thought he'd be, but led to um the passing attack from the Titans is going off. So I think that yeah, Christian Watson continuing to develop will be hugely important, and hopefully that him and Rodgers can continue to build that trust and continue to mix in better and more dynamic throws than just like basic quote unquote throws. Like maybe mix in back shoulder stuff if they start getting that like down next couple games, and this is all the start of that. So I think if he can have a big game, or even just like an average game, because I'm really not expecting a big game from anybody in the receiving game this week because of how stout that defense is. But like an
No.
average game from anybody will be a plus for me, honestly.
Yeah.
But moving to the pass rush, man, once again, it's really good. The Eagles are third best in the league, only having been played 10 games at 33 sacks, only behind the Patriots and the Cowboys. Like it's good. The I had my notes and then I lost them. Um, Hassan Reddick 7.5 sacks. Javon Hargrove 7 sacks. Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, Fletcher Cox, CJ Edwards all still there. Like they all have I think around 2-3 sacks. Like they're good. They're really good at rushing the passer and getting home. So the line is going to be tested once again.
Yeah. I mean, not even. I think did I mention already? I'm losing my train of thought. Obviously, uh, Robert Quinn. They made that
Nope.
move.
Yep, totally forgot about that.
Yeah. Um, again, kind of another guy that just like did numbers with the Bears last year. Kind of one of their lone bright spots, obviously, but he's a guy that if he's like in your rotation, but not like a featured guy,
Yeah.
you're doing really well.
Been kind of quiet for them. Four
Yeah.
games, only 2 tackles and one QB hit. So,
So yeah, I don't even know how many snaps he's had since the trade.
right,
Um, I mean, even Jordan Davis, that was like their first round pick this year, and they haven't really had to have him do anything.
right. They're just so good that they can let him learn from some of the best.
Yeah, it's an embarrassment riches basically with their defense at this
Yeah.
point. Um,
59 snaps over 4 games for Robert Quinn. So not too many,
not too many.
but not like a small amount either.
I don't think he's hating it either.
No, I don't think he's minding much at all.
No.
Jordan Davis, 7 games, 154 snaps, so not too bad, but doing well when he's in there. No sacks, but 6 hurries, according to PFF. So yeah, the I saw some bad videos of the line this week for the Packers. I think it was
Like pass protection stuff or
just both.
both?
Like I think it was uh Josh Myers got absolutely rinsed on a just like super fundamental stuff against the Titans, like spreading out his feet too wide and getting off balance and getting thrown aside by whatever D lineman was rushing. And so, like, yeah, it's good. They have to work on the little things like that, which is where that line play being diminished this year because of Adam Stenavich going to the offensive coordinator position is showing. Like, you never want to demote a guy because the position you vacated him from is doing worse. But like, man, I would not hate paying Adam Stenavich an absurd amount of money just to get that line back up to snuff and then have him be the offensive line coach, paid like an offensive coordinator, and then hire a new offensive coordinator. Like, it's not like Mark Murphy and the Packers are hurting for money. Like, they can
No.
afford that. And to get the line back up to what it's been in previous years would be great for this team, but that's obviously not going to happen. But the reason it looks so bad is that they're just not coached well anymore. And evidence of that
Injury.
is, yeah, evidence of that is Josh Myers not doing simple footwork stuff that's getting him beat.
Yeah.
So,
That's the thing too. You talk about like Packers lineman getting beat. When it happens so quickly off the line.
yeah, there's no explosion.
There was not like, I mean, I'm not about to rewatch games,
Especially this year. Like, the wins, they're
especially
good.
this year. Yeah, maybe I'll rewatch a few Christian Watson highlights from the Cowboys game or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that. I just felt like there was a lot of just like, oh, a replay of a sack, and it's just like, oh, that guy had no chance. It's just it that has been a common occurrence.
Right.
So yeah, I mean honestly, I mean we're kind of organically integrating this into our podcast, but that is probably going to be the biggest thing I'm going to watch for because the line has been so much of a mess. Again, a lot of it's informed by injury,
Mm-hmm.
and Jenkins and Bakhtiari just hang over the line because they're so immense to what they do,
Yeah.
and it allows for a little bit of a rotation where if you're incorporating Zach Tomlin, who's been okay, but
Still a rookie.
could still, yeah, exactly, still a rookie. It's just stuff like that where it's like, you know, these are very fundamental things that you look at a team like Philly who pretty much has like a veteran line that's kind of they've gone through all these changes and losses and lost like Jason Peters was like on that line for such a long time
Yep.
and it helped them win a Super Bowl, what, going on 5 years now?
I
Um,
think so.
but
2018
it's
sounds about right.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. But it's just so integral to success in the NFL that like if you have a good line, that's takes care of half the
Half
problem.
the problem. Yeah. And sort of to expand from that and go into like the next point is that if they the 2 points I should say, if they can't keep Rodgers upright and from scrambling, it's going to be a long night because Rodgers doesn't
Exactly.
have his scrambling ability like he used to. It's just not there anymore. Like, we've seen that. They don't get him outside the pocket very often, which is a detriment or a detriment. It's a problem that they should be doing. They should be running more. They should be running more bootlegs and things like that. But like, secondly, if the line play isn't good, they're not going to be able to get Aaron Jones going, which is I think this um where this, like we said, path to winning could open up if Aaron Jones has a good game.
Yeah.
Because uh, the Philly pass defense, as we touched on, is really good. 31st in the league in passing yards allowed. I mean, like, second best. They've allowed 1,784, just below the Cowboys in that matter, which we already talked about. Cowboys have a really good pass defense. But yeah, so second best in the league at passing yards allowed, despite being middle of the pack in attempts that teams have tried to throw against them.
Yeah.
Conversely, they are like middle of the pack in rushing yards, allowed at 1,200 ish. Uh, Same thing, middle of the pack in rushing attempts against them. So, like, if they can get the line to open up holes and get Aaron Jones going around the outside or through a gap in the middle, like that's there for them. It's always there for them to get Aaron Jones going, and really carry the offense as he does when they ask him to. So we'll see. It's an always we'll see because
Hmm.
they just don't seem to want to mix in Aaron Jones as much as they should, and that's been the calling card all season long.
Yeah, I think we probably talked about it before, but like it will be shown whether they will focus or feature Aaron Jones in their overall game plan within
Mm-hmm.
like the first 10 to 15 plays.
Yeah, it'll be
If that's not the case, when things are like even and people or teams are looking for the first score and stuff like that, like this could go downhill very fast. And then it's, Rogers do everything. It's like, no, don't do that.
right. Like, I think it's worth noting that in the games that the um, Packers have won of their four, the Bears, the Patriots, and the Cowboys, rushing in those games, Jones had 132 yards, 110, and 133. His only other um, game where he had over 100 yards rushing was the Bills game where they lost. He had 143
Mhm.
that game. But like even then in the games, like I don't think he's had a 100-yard game in a loss that I'm looking at here, just sort of glancing. So besides the Bills game, obviously. So it's really a matter of just getting him involved, and he's like he'll always be utilized and targeted in the passing game. Like his season low is 2, which was against the Cowboys, which he was running the ball, so they didn't really get it in the passing game. And the the Lions game, which was abysmal all around. Like I'm
Yeah.
willing to take that out because everybody played like crap that game. But otherwise, he still gets like 3, 4 targets a game in the passing game, and he'll always be utilized with that because he's such a good pass catcher and can make guys miss when he does catch it. But like, if they can't get him going in the run, they usually can't get him going in the passing game either.
Passing. Yep.
So like, they
Yeah.
they just need to commit to using him as a running back and not a pass catching running back. Like I think it's not a win condition as we just talked about because they had 150 yards from him on the ground against the Buffalo and lost, but it's pretty close to a win condition to get Jones going.
And honestly, Stu, that how things developed in that game, that Buffalo game specifically, has been such an outlier to when things go awry for the Packers offense
Mm,
with Aaron Jones under LaFleur,
right.
because it's always been phasing him out. They phased him in, and yeah, like as we talked about at the time, like that was the right thing to do because you got nothing going on
Right.
at that point. Christian Watson got hurt after his first and only catch that game.
Right.
So it's stuff like that that like I look at that as the outlier of how they adjusted, and it was just like feed them, feed them, feed them. When more times than not, if not every time than not, they say no, we're just gonna go elsewhere, or I don't know.
Or
It's
they'll
Aaron
make Rodgers
Rodgers,
throw the ball 50 times. Not 50, but
yeah,
you get the point.
the equivalent of it, every time it feels like 50
Right.
times.
And like, and it's so like frustrating looking at this, like his game log, Aaron Jones's game log, because it's obvious of what they need to do. It's in the win against the Bears, 15 rushes, 132 yards. I'm just going through carries for Jones right now. The ugly win against the Buccaneers, he had 12. The Giants or the Patriots win, he had 16. The Giants win or the Giants loss, he had 13. And then the Bills game, he had 20. And the Cowboys win, he had 24. So any game, they can just hand the ball off to Aaron Jones more than 15 times or 15 or more. It's a win.
Yep.
It shouldn't be that hard. He's your
No.
lead running back making like top running back money. It's frankly ridiculous that they don't do it that often. And like, I don't know how they're not seeing this or what the disconnect is, like seeing these stats and not implementing them. But like, why not just give him the ball 15 times and see what happens. Like he clearly can do it.
There's a lot of channels that it has to go through that it
I
makes it
think
hard
the
to.
main one is the quarterback.
Of course,
Like,
but I also think we talk about Adam Senovich, you know, as offense coordinator. This is his first year.
right.
He had an incredible challenge of trying to develop an offense with rookie wideouts, without the team's best wide receiver of
The previous year.
the last 10 years,
Right.
too. Um, it's and with a lot of coaching staff changes, guys that, frankly, if they were still around, he wouldn't be in the position that he's in now.
Right.
Um, it's tough. It's tough to do, and
Right.
in the middle of this is LaFleur and what he wants to do, but it's all this, like, it's fodder for political warfare behind the scenes, and just like
Right.
who is really running the show and all the stuff that, like, kind of asks for, like, dramatic headlines and stuff like that.
Right.
But there's a reason why that happens when so much control is ceded to Aaron Rodgers, who, you know, has been the quarterback for a long time.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's a very delicate situation where it's like you can make a case for everything going or pointing the finger at this guy, this guy, this guy. But in the end, it's all adding up into just this cluster F.
Yeah.
We'll keep it
Keep it
tame
clean.
for now.
Keep it clean for now.
But yeah, that's where it's like
Yeah.
I don't know how you possibly assess this offense, and specifically like the Aaron Jones of it all, because this has happened routinely over the last like 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah. Like just get the running game going. It's
It's that simple.
it's the road to winning with this team. We've talked about it all year long, so it doesn't change like this week against the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Players to watch, Jordan. Unless you have anything else to touch on the offense.
No. Players to touch on or points.
No
Sorry.
points about the offense. We'll go to players. Okay.
Honestly, I'm gonna stick to the line. Well, I already made my point about the line. Let's go player. I like your Quay Walker thing. I think that'd be interesting. I think it's Jair.
Okay. I was gonna be very mad at you because I think I went first last week, so I was letting you take the floor going first, and mine was going to be Quay Walker. It's going to be Quay Walker. So if you had sniped me like that, I was like, oh man, I gotta think of a new one off the cuff here. No, like what do you want to touch on your Jair thing at all or no? Just like more of what we already said.
Yeah, this is the stuff that kind of, I don't know. It's been such a weird year
Yeah.
with Jair specifically, where it's kind of like he's so talented and his future is so bright, and he thinks very highly of himself. And again, another kind of struggle of like how he views himself
Mm-hmm.
versus how he's being utilized.
Yep.
And how does that fit into the defense as it's currently constructed right now? I just want to see him engaged. I want to see him try to make plays and not just, I don't know. Some of the things that we've seen in recent weeks are just kind of like, okay. Just kind of, what was it? The Bills game that he, obviously all the Stephon Diggs stuff, but he was like taunting. I can't remember what game that was.
No, it wasn't the Bills game. It was the I think it was the Lions game.
It was a Lions game, yeah.
Yeah, because they were getting beat down so bad, and
that's right. Yeah, which is even worse because it was like, what the. Yeah.
We won't go back to that point. That low point in our life.
But yeah, it's just been a weird year, and it's like, okay, you're either going against Devontae Smith, who I know we kind of shortchanged him in the whole AJ Brown discussion, but
Still very
Pretty good
good.
year. He's their leading wide receiver this year.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like it's either going on Devontae Smith or AJ Brown. Good luck, and let's see how you do.
Yeah.
So yeah, just keep. Let's see what he what he can do against
Yeah.
very good wide receivers.
Not to slight AJ Brown, but AJ Brown is the leading wide receiver this year for them.
He is.
Yeah, he's leading by like 200 yards and has double touchdowns.
Oh well, okay.
So no, not to. Well, actually, I just
Yeah,
wanted to make sure that if AJ Brown is a dedicated Talk of the Thunder listener.
leading wide reception getter.
Oh yeah, three receptions more than than AJ Brown. Devonta Smith has at 52-49. But regardless of it all, yeah, as we mentioned, talked about earlier, mine's Quay Walker. Like, I'm really impressed with how he's had a season so far. Like as a rookie, as the leading tackler on the team, seeing how he can function as a QB spy this game would be really cool to see if like he has that instinct and that knowledge to really attack Jalen Hurts when he starts to get outside and tries to run and like stifles that into either a throwaway or a short yardage gain of like 1 or 2 yards for him rushing, just to be that impact player and take away that facet of the Eagles offense because I think it will be very prevalent um, for them this week against the Packers. I could see a lot of QB draws, a lot of QB rollouts turning into runs, sort of dicing up the front seven of the Packers this week.
Yes.
Score predictions?
Do you want to go first?
I'll go first. 30-10 Eagles.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a absolute this rock fight for them on offense, and I think they're going to get sliced and diced on defense.
Yeah, I don't know how much to put stock into the last 2 weeks for the Eagles.
I would be willing to give them the benefit of the doubt because they're really good and they still ended up winning that Colts game. I don't think the Packers have it in them to pressure them enough to make it even worth thinking about, is my understanding. Like, I don't have confidence in the Packers keeping it close to where it would be possible for them to upset the Eagles.
That is definitely where I fall because although I could make the case that not having Goddard is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
I just think like the Washington is a way better team than Packers are.
Proof in the pudding that they beat them.
That they beat them, but even honestly, since that game, they've been a totally different team.
Totally different team.
The Colts, like I know they've been mired in a lot of issues, but like there's good players on that roster.
Mm-hmm.
Packers have good players that are not either healthy, having their best year, engaged. You can go in so many different ways of how you can describe the Packers this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is. I don't know if their offense is going to go crazy. I'll go 27-10. Just sounds right.
27-10.
Yeah, Eagles.
We're in the same ballpark there.
Yeah.
And a surprise question this week, not so much for you, Jordan, but for you, the listeners. It is Thanksgiving, as you guys might well have known already. Thanksgiving week, I should say. And to get in the holiday spirit, we're going to end this podcast with a question to you, Jordan. I'll answer it as well. We'll broach it to you, Talk of the Tundra listeners, just to see how you're feeling. Jordan, I want to know your favorite Thanksgiving food, whether it be like turkey or any of the sides, and your worst, like something that you stay far away, that stays as far away from your plate as it can even come close to touching for Thanksgiving food.
There's so many good choices.
There are. This is a tough question.
You got your stuffing, you got your mashed taters, you got your turkey, you got your GBC, your green bean casserole. I like me a good dinner roll
Ooh, love a
too.
good dinner roll.
Are we counting mac and cheese in this? This
Yes,
is
we are.
kind of
Yes, we are. We
interesting.
are a mac and cheese Thanksgiving side podcast supporter.
I enjoy mac and cheese. It doesn't enjoy me so much lately. I never associate with Thanksgiving for some reason.
I don't know either, but it's definitely it's on many of families.
Yes,
It's on many of families' tables. So who are we to say it's not Thanksgiving food?
exactly. However you celebrate your Thanksgiving, you do it your way.
That's right.
You know, um, did not like stuffing for a long time.
Really,
A long time.
I
It
think
would
it's one
probably
of
would
those
have.
like adult things. Like you, as a kid, you really don't like it because it's
You gotta be
looks
this
gross
tall to eat stuffing and
to
enjoy it.
enjoy stuffing. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, if we probably do this 10 years ago, I'd be like, stuffing's kind of like I heard a lot about stuffing and I'm like, ugh.
stuffing is a huge variance food. Like
Yeah.
good stuffing is really good where it's moist and like has all the flavor. Is just good. But
Yeah.
like bad stuffing where it's
Oh.
dry and like no. Like
That's why when you have leftovers, it's a tough one to reheat.
a
You
tough one
gotta
to
just
reheat.
to get it just right.
Yep.
What other sweet potato,
Yep.
whatever you want to do with that?
At
I
this
think
point
that
we're just
covered.
listing sides.
I know. I'm just I'm setting the table, if you will.
Ooh, look at you.
Setting the
Look
table.
at you.
Best best food. Stuffing would probably be up there. You can't go wrong with a mashed potato.
That's your favorite?
It is. It just
Mashed
having
potatoes
that.
and loaded in gravy.
I like gravy. I don't like it like overwhelming.
Wow.
Yeah. I like enough to like have a little pond. I don't want a quarry.
Hmm. I'm
A
more of a
quarry,
lake. Like I put
a lake.
a significant divot in my uh a significant depression in my mashed potatoes to fill it up with
Ooh,
gravy to where it just dribbles out the outside, and then I like take a bite from the outside. Kind of how you make homemade pasta, where you put
yes.
like all of like the flour in a like in a ring shape, then you mix it into the water or the eggs in the middle. That's
Yeah.
me, but with mashed potatoes and gravy.
That's a good Turkey Day topography right there.
What is your least favorite? Uh,
Without a doubt. Fluff. Have you had
wow.
this?
You don't
Hate
like
it.
marshmallow fluff? Or like
Nope.
whatever fluff you eat? Wow.
I'm not a big texture is
Cherry
not
fluff is the one
normally
in my house. It's very much a white person food. Like
absolutely
it's a Midwest salad.
a
It's
white
got
person
yeah.
Midwest.
I don't like have the hate for it that apparently you do. It's not my first go-to dessert. Like I'd much rather pumpkin or pecan pie to eat.
See, growing up though, it would be out when we're having dinner.
Yeah. I don't know.
I guess I'd even factor in dessert in here.
That's that yeah, like factor in dessert. But
Apple pie might be up there. I'm not a big apple
instead of
pie guy.
pumpkin or pecan,
I love pumpkin pie.
wow. Like I'm not hating apple pie. I like apple pie. But like a nice slice of pecan pie with Thanksgiving it just feels appropriate.
Oh yeah. The thing about apple pie for me, I like apples. If you're biting
How
into
about
an
them
apple,
apples? Sorry.
if you're
If you're
if you're
biting
biting
into an apple,
if you're biting into an apple within a pie crust, it just feels the same. Like if you look at it, if you hear me out now, hear me out. I got a point to make. I look at an apple pie, I'm like, oh, that looks like pie crust. I bite into it. That's not pie crust. That tastes like an apple. It is disappointing. It's a disappointing feeling.
alrighty then.
Yeah.
I will.
But yeah, fluff, still fluff.
Gotcha.
I'm not a big texture guy, but
It
like,
is a textured food.
yeah, it just drives me away just like looking at it, just sitting there,
Yeah.
all white.
Oh, wait.
What is your favorite food?
Um, my favorite Thanksgiving food is like sweet potatoes, but specifically my mother's sweet potatoes. Makes like a big dish of them, like mashes them and everything. And then on top are, uh, I think it's either walnuts or pecans. They're both like the same nut to me. But then like a layer of walnuts or pecans that are mixed with brown sugar. So like
Oh,
the entire top is like this hard crust, basically like that, like what pecan pie looks like, but layered with like mixed with a bunch of brown sugar. Then you break that crust into the warm sweet potatoes below. Like that takes up, I'm not kidding, a third of my first Thanksgiving plate. And then uh followed closely by mashed potatoes and gravy. That's like pretty good.
Mama Numac's got the sweet potato, pecan. I don't know.
I don't know what you're going for, but yes, she
I
does.
don't know.
But yes, she
Is it
does.
because is it like in a casserole dish
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
in
thing?
like a
Yeah,
9 by 13 dish, something like
yeah.
that, or like one of the circular ones. Like she makes a few dishes of them because she knows I like them, and she'll make me like
Yeah.
an entire dish for myself to bring home because she's a good mom. Least favorite. I want to hurl every single can of cranberry sauce
Oh
into
yeah. Yeah.
Like, get cranberry sauce out of my sight on Thanksgiving. Like, I feel like that is another very old person thing to like on Thanksgiving. I know people swear by it; they love it. Like, I cannot stand it. Like, I think it's one, the taste. Two, it's seeing it jiggle out of the can and it being the shape of the can.
Gelatinous.
Oh man, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's another one I didn't think of that I've never gravitated towards.
Yeah,
I don't mind the taste of cranberry either.
I don't
Just
like.
not.
I'm not a huge fan of it. Like it's whatever. But cranberry sauce itself is no good. It's just no
No,
good.
no.
Um, but we want to hear from you. We just want to get
Yes.
our community involved and know what you all are getting on your plates this Thanksgiving holiday on Thursday. To do so, you can either tweet at Jordan or me at Numac is known, at Jordan Tresky. Um, Let us know what you're eating. Show us your plates. Otherwise, join the Discord, gspn.info. We have a channel in there which is real Wisco stuff. It's kind of our food, alcoholic drink, just sort of uh place where we talk about nice places to eat, food and things like that. So throw your plates in there. Throw a picture of you hurling a can of cranberry sauce out your back door, whichever you want to do. Please share with us what you're having, what your favorite stuff, what your favorite side or facet of Thanksgiving is, and your worst, if you'd like to. We'd love to have you in there with Twitter ultimately going down the drain. Discord's been popping off and having a lot of people join. So get in there, join the fun, and yeah, hope you guys enjoy your holiday. Before we get to that, though, and goodbyes and everything, couple of promotions. Uh, World Cup started this week. The I can't even think of the appropriate adjective to describe the Qatari World Cup, but it's a good thing I can't because Adam and Andrew did a make time for this episode on the World Cup, and they talked about all the bad things that are surrounding this World Cup prior to the balls even being kicked, which was I guess a choice of my way to describe it, but you get the point. Wonderful, wonderful episode from Adam and Andrew that way, going through each group and matchups and sort of how they see uh, the group shaking out and who they have coming out of each group. So, good episode over there on the Make Time for This feed. Ty and Rohan had a Eurostep episode drop on Monday, as they've been known to do this season, talking about sort of Giannis and how his struggles have been since the month started, as well as just the Bucks being 11-4 to start the season, anyways. Despite that, so which is good. Uh, Andrew and Adam again are recording a Cruising for a Bruising. I think today,
Yes.
Tuesday, or tomorrow when you're listening to this Wednesday, on the relief pitchers for the Brewers. So refresh your Cruising for a Bruising feeds for that content. And Jordan, do you guys have a 1-6 coming up or no?
TBD,
TBD.
TBD. The holiday is very busy for real life work, Jordan. We are in discussions.
Perfect. That's all we need to hear. So, all right, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. Please enjoy your holiday safe. If you're going Black Friday shopping, please do not be an absolute madman and be respectful of your fellow humans, despite them maybe pushing you over to get that brand new TV that you, I guess, so desperately need. So, thank you all for listening. I know Jordan and I are for sure thankful that you do. Happy holiday, and we will talk to you next week. Oop, Jordan has one more thing. Go ahead, Jordan.
No, no, I was just pointing to it. We were
Oh,
thankful for.
watch YouTube. You can see Jordan saying thank you. So, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.